All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Today's movie that we're going to be talking about is one of my all-time favorites, and it has the tagline that goes like this: "Believe in angels." What do you think about that tagline, bro?
I mean, burn it up. That should have been the fucking tagline.
All right, bro. So
The
burn it
Crow.
up, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on to your seats because MovieByte starts now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in for another exciting episode of MovieByte Podcast. I am your host, Ruben, and with me, I got my brother in arms, the Russian. How you doing today, bro?
I'm good. Welcome, everybody. Today we'll be talking about one of our most beloved cult following movies, and it's going to be The Crow. But I believe we have something special today.
We do. We have a special guest with us tonight. My other brother from another mother and father, my homie from Puerto Rico, our producer, our editor-in-chief, Mr. Pablo Jimenez.
Welcome!
Hey guys, how
welcome.
we doing?
We're good.
Nice to have you here, bro.
It's like the guy who always stays in the shadows
Yeah.
is like today with us, but it still seems like you're still in the shadows. Judging by the background.
I like being. Yeah, it's perfect for The Crow. You know, it's very dark movie.
Oh yeah, it's.
So I thought it would
right,
be the perfect
right.
ambiance for it. You know.
I like it. I dig that. I should probably turn off the lights here, even though I don't have too many. But it's a perfect setup.
All right, so like we were saying earlier, we're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite movies. I know I said multiple times that I have a lot of favorite movies, but this is my number one. What's up, Jesse? We're talking about The Crow, released in 1994, and I'm gonna go deep into this movie. We're gonna share some facts. We're gonna share why I love this movie so much. I know Pablo has his fair share of why he likes this movie. I know the Russian's going to take a little bit of a back seat on this one, but he also has his own opinion on this movie.
Absolutely.
But this is one of the movies that I picked under the category cult classic. You know, Joe. Thank you, Jesse. Yeah, my birthday was yesterday, so thank you. Another year older, another year wiser, I believe. So, all right.
That's what they say, at least.
So we're going to be talking about The Crow, released in 1994. This movie has a huge cult following, as you can see. It can't rain all the time on my shirt. And it's because of the tragedy behind this movie before it got released in theaters. You know, this movie it's surrounded with tragedy, from the creator of the comic book to the whole movie itself, and the message of the movie. So like I was saying, the movie released in 1994, starring Brandon Lee, who was Bruce Lee's son, tragically passed away while filming this movie due to an accidental gunshot with a prop gun. You know, and we'll go a little bit more in detail after that. The movie, obviously, when Brandon Lee passed away, he had already completed the majority of all his scenes, but the studio was afraid of finishing the movie because because of the tone of the movie. It's a very violent movie, and they wanted to give Brandon Lee the most respect out of this, and his family, And the last name of Lee itself, it's very tragic. Is Bruce Lee, as all we know, died while filming a movie called Game of Death. Also, so this whole family has been surrounded by tragedy through the Can Alec get out of his work clothes before he jumps on the podcast, please?
I don't have any other clothes. I cannot afford any clothes. Well, I just wear everything that I'm given for free.
A shout out from Stevie, fellow co-worker of ours. Yes, the Russian had just came out of work. He's doing this as a favor and a responsibility to you people. That's why we pushed it to 8:30, so he could be here on time. So like I was saying, Brandon Lee tragically passed away. And I got a couple of photos here that we can share of that man. So,
yeah, the production was cursed from the get-go. Like, there's been multiple accidents on the set. They actually filmed it, if I'm not mistaken, in Wilmington. All this was filmed in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Wilmington, North Carolina. Yep.
Yeah, this is North Carolina. I mean, a lot of movies got shot in Wilmington in the 90s, so that's not a surprise. It was a great location for that. I think some of the great TV series were filmed there as well. But going back to this, I think the Miramax, they didn't even want to complete the project, so I believe they pushed it over, and the Dimension Studios, if I'm not mistaken, were the ones who completed the final product and released the movie. And it was not so much buzz about it. It wasn't like they tried to keep the actual tragedy off the screen and not, make it influential and make it like, hey, listen, this guy died, so now go see this movie. They didn't do that. Same thing, like I believe with Dark Knight. I mean, everybody knew what happened there, but everybody went to see that movie not because of the tragedy. They went to see that because they wanted to see the movie, and obviously, at the end, paid respects. And I think so many myths and so many theories grew out of that it kind of always goes hand to hand with this movie. It's like you talk Crow, everybody's gonna be, oh yeah, that's when the actor, but if you take that aside and push it aside, because I personally wouldn't like to touch that part so much. I would like to talk like about the movie itself, why we love it, what worked, and kind of focus on that aspect.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That being said, let's dive in, Ruben. Let's start with.
So let's start with like the movie details itself. So, like you mentioned, Paramount Pictures was first attached to this project, and they wanted to put out like start like a comic book movie. They wanted the kids to. Originally, this movie was supposed to have a straight to video release also, because of what happened. Paramount pulled back, and they were like, no, we don't want to do that, like you mentioned. And then Miramax / Dimension Films, the company that was previously owned by Harvey Weinstein and his brother. They put more money into it and to finish the movie with the use of stunt double, computer effects, and some rewrites in the script to give it its finishing touches. Because like I mentioned, Brandon Lee already had filmed the majority of the movie before he passed away. This movie ended up opening on May 13th, Friday. It was a Friday 13th also. It was also the directorial debut of Alex Proyas, who has done other movies since then, like I, Robot, Dark City, Gods of Egypt. What other one? Knowing. With Nicolas Cage.
Concept, yeah.
So he's tackled this science fiction / supernatural genre. Let's put it this way. So this movie was released May 13th, 1994, and it opened number 1 on the box office that week, with gathering about $11 million. Through its entire run, it ended up generating about $94 million.
What was the budget, like 25?
It was like $23 million for the budget, and it grossed $94 million worldwide. So it was a box office hit for the studio. The studio recuperated their investment and profited out of the movie. And since then, the movie has gained a cult following, and it has gained a television series and multiple sequels that, unfortunately, the sequels have not lived up to the success of the Crow, the original Crow.
So you think the following, was it because Brandon Lee just stands out as a Crow? Like when you watch him put on that makeup and then you watch him transform into that character, like it's a silly makeup, right? It's pretty silly character if you look outside of the lens. Without the content, that character is pretty silly. But when you put him in this type of genre with this type of setting, he becomes this supernatural hero slash, you know, what do you call him, like avenger of his beloved one. So
Yeah.
It gave us the
he's
look
kind of
of
like an anti-hero, you know.
he's a yeah.
he kills like
He's kind of
bad
like an
guys.
anti-hero.
So he's kind of like the Punisher. Right? Yeah, he took the word.
Yeah.
out of- So
Yeah.
And
So
so the question is
I
like, why
agree
do you
with
think it didn't work?
why do
I
you think
agree
it
with
worked?
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go, Pablo. Like,
I
why
agree
do you
with
think the movie worked?
Brandon Lee was the main figure, and before this movie, he wasn't like super hugely known as an actor. He's done a couple of action films, and he also was in some of his father's films when he was younger. The movies, the sequels didn't work as well because the main characters were the people pretending the Crow weren't like up to par for that part. I do have to say the series, which I believe was in 1998, that series, that Crow, I really liked them a lot. And for the people that watch like Food Network and stuff, that's the guy that's the Iron Chef America. He's the
Yeah, Mark DeCasco. He played Eric Draven in the TV show The Crow's Stairway to
and
Heaven.
I loved that TV series. And I actually saw it right after I saw the movie. And for me, those two, I don't think it would work for a movie, the guy with the series, but the series worked awesome. Brandon Lee brought a fascination to the character. You can tell that he really studied the character. And he also kind of had that kind of dark, macabre, I don't know how you say it, vibe
Macabre.
with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that it was a perfect, and this was his breakout role. This was what put him out there, and unfortunately, it was his last.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Brandon Lee, before he started on The Crow, he already had done 2 big movies under his belt. The first one was Rapid Fire, and the second one was Big Showdown in Little Tokyo, or Little Showdown Big Tokyo, something like that,
Yeah, Tokyo.
with Dolph Lundgren. Buddy cop movie that they were trying to explore that genre, and they didn't do that well in the box office. So when he got cast as Eric Draven, the Crow, in this movie, he knew, like he has mentioned in interviews when he was cast in this movie, that he knew this was going to be the movie that was going to catapult him into stardom. You know, he was very proud of being part of this movie, and you can see, like, if you look up interviews from him promoting this movie or while making this movie, he was very excited. He wanted to see the final product of this, because he felt it, you know. And like you said, unfortunately, it was his last role. For me, this movie, he works as Eric Draven because he brought in, like, you see this movie and you think you just know this guy as an unknown actor because nobody really knew Brandon Lee as, you know, as we see him in this movie. He was just Bruce Lee's son, you know. He's just following his father's footsteps, you know. I think this movie helped him. Yeah, like this movie helped him, like, get out of his father's shadow. And again, like, I don't want to say this movie gained a cult following because of what happened behind the scenes, but it's because he put up a lot in this movie. Like he gave the performance, ironically, of a lifetime in this movie. You know, similar to what Heath Ledger did for The Dark Knight. You know, everybody didn't like the casting when he got cast, you know, and he put up the performance of a lifetime, you know, an Academy Award winning performance. You know, Brandon Lee did something like this for this movie. And I think that's why the movie works. I think, unfortunately, because of what happened, but since the story, which we're going to dig deeper into it soon, also, like, helps this movie drive. And this movie, like, released in 1994, right? It did a lot. You know, this movie had one of the best soundtracks in that moment. You know, we had bands in this soundtrack from, like, The Cure, with the song "Burn," that became the movie's main theme. It's used in a scene where Eric Draven's putting up the makeup for the first time for the Crow to hide his identity. That song it's powerful. You know, we have Stone Temple Pilots, Rage Against the Machine. We have Nine Inch Nails doing a cover of Joy Division. Like, this was the soundtrack of that moment when this movie got released. Like, this movie got nominated for, I know it's not a very serious award, but it's still an award, like MTV Movie Award for Best Song, Best Actor, and Best Movie of the Year. You know, the Stone Temple Pilots won Best Song of the Year for the song Big Empty, which is used in most of the trailers for this movie. So this movie had a lot to offer when it was released in 1994. But I think what also helped this movie is the vision of the director. Okay, so Alex Proyas, okay, first-time director, creates this movie, and later on we've gone to see other works from him, and we can see his style. But he gives this movie a different vibe, and it's like comparing it to like Tim Burton's Batman, but a little bit more darker. Like, what do you guys think about the work of the director itself?
I think for this to be his first big film, if you will, or his directorial debut, I think he did a great job. And when you left to the United States, you actually left me your box set of The Crow and all the movies that they made and all that. But what I really liked about that was the behind the scenes, which is something that I really miss from all the streaming services. And in that behind the scenes, if you hear Proya talking about this project, about how he's involved in this project, and how, in a way, it touched his own life, because it's a story we can all relate to. You know, it's a lost love. You know, it might not be death, but we all experience a lost love at some point. Oh yeah, I love that. And I think for this to be his first big movie, big ticket item, I think he blew this out of the park. This movie is amazing, and I can't wait for we to start talking like really into this movie.
What do you think, Russian, about Alex Proyas like work with this film?
I think a lot of things work in a sense of setting this world. Like, you don't really know where it's happening. It could be New York, could be LA. This is like really dark tones. I think he took a lot of from this movie and then created the Dark City. It resembles the same kind of vibe for the city, and it's straight up out of the comic book. He didn't want to make it black and white, but he made it extremely dark, and it works. Like, there's a fantastic shots in this movie. There's a fantastic scenes in this movie. It floats. It keeps you engaged. It brings out the character. It brings out the story, and obviously that's the director's job to make it flow. And for the unknown, like, there was no formula of how to make comic book movies, right? There was, I mean, I can't even name one movie which came before that.
Batman. Just to like add on to that, Batman was
Superman. Yeah, like that was.
But we're talking about two completely different superhero like characters. You know, we have Batman is portrayed as a good guy doing good things, but like the Crow is on a path of vengeance. No,
right, and also Crow comes from the not Marvel, not DC. It comes down from this independent guy. Who suffered loss on his own because I believe his wife or girlfriend passed away in a car accident.
Yeah,
so
his fiance.
So in order for him to cope with that, he creates this character and he gives him this background and this storyline, and then the director transforms that storyline into the movie, obviously working closely with the writer himself, who was on the set and he helped him out.
Yeah, so, Mr. James O'Barr is the creator of the comic book and the Crow character, which is the gentleman we have on the screen right there.
The director did. I mean, he did a great job. This movie stands the stamp of time. Like 25 years, 26 years later, you watch it. Actually 27, I can't fucking do math, but you watch it and it's still the motives, the themes, they still resonate with you. Like
Yeah.
it's still I mean, they never gonna die. It's a story of like you can look at Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. What's different from perspective of time in here? These stories gonna repeat itself as horribly as it sounds, but as we've been talking, like this has been we all been through similar experiences, not that harsh of, but like where do you find the outlet? So when it comes down to directing, I think the job has been done outstanding. Like there's not a single moment where I could say, hey, I didn't like this shot, I didn't. And when we talked about different scenes, like there's so many scenes that I like, and that there's not too many that I dislike. There's I mean, it works, and a lot of people can say like this is a B movie. When you look at the production value, when you're looking at the way it was shot, when you look at the special effects, visual effects, you can say, this is at best a B movie. But you have to think about 1994, the budget they had, the special effects were not even born, and they had to deal with replacing the main character with a stunt double and placing his face on top of it, and you have to piece it all together. As a director, I'm sure you go through tremendous stress. I mean, everybody went through stress on that set, but I believe when he asked the fiance of Brandon Lee and his family that if they wanted them to finish the movie, they said, "Hey, we're fine of stopping and never releasing anything.
Yeah.
But if you want to continue," and then they said, "Yeah, in honor of him, he wanted this project to be done.
Yeah.
So let's do our best to finish it up." And then they finished it up. Even without anything that what surrounds the mystery of the making the movie, you look at it as a standalone piece, and it's phenomenal. It's great. It's from the beginning to the end. It's a simple message. It's well delivered. Everybody who got punished, and obviously the ending is probably my top 2 favorite endings of how you deal with a bad guy. I mean, one being the guy. Well, actually, very similar in the Die Hard when Bruce Willis throws the fucking German guy off the skyscraper. Like that's my probably. And here, well, spoilers ahead if anybody still here. Like the way that line is delivered, where he puts his hands on top of the head of the main villain and says, "I have something to give you. There's some memories that I have, and I don't want them anymore. And here's 30 hours of pain."
All the pain.
And then he gives me all the suffering that she went through to kind of, hey, this was your doing, so you fucking take it with you. Yeah, that was like, there was no like sucker punching, there was no blowing up, there's no shooting the bad guy. There was just like, here's what you have done. Now kind of live with it, and you can't, so he kind of flies out.
Yeah.
Anyway, directing. Superb.
And then, as you guys, if you were watching, I've been posting a couple of pictures. So that's Alex Proyas right there, the director of the movie. That's him on set with Brandon Lee while making the film, right? And I agree with both of you. I think like the way this movie was completely done, it stands on its own. Like, I know it had sequels, but like this movie is just subpar. For it being a 1994 movie, like. It's amazing. And I saw this movie for the first time probably in 2004, 2005 when I came across it. And it only took one watch for me to say, like, I love this movie. And that's why it's one of my favorite movies. Like, I've seen it so many times, I can quote every scene if I wanted to. And like we were mentioning, like James O'Barr created this character as a way to cope with his personal loss. He lost his fiancée due to a drunk driver while he was in the Marines. So he created this character of Eric Draven, guided by this supernatural crow, as a coping mechanism for his loss. And the story it's a very simple story. We have a man that had a love of his life, and he and his fiancée get murdered on what they call Devil's Night, which is kind of like a Halloween night in Detroit. And then a year later, he comes back to life, guided by this crow, this supernatural crow that gives him these abilities to pretty much be immortal for that one night, for him to have vengeance upon those who wrong him and his fiancée, And as simple as that story is, it's powerful enough to drive these characters. And not only Eric Draven, though, we have very important supporting characters in this movie. From Mr. Ernie Hudson, who plays the cop. No, he's kind of like the more the good moral in the movie. Like you can't do that. Like this is wrong. But at the same time, he's like he knows that what he needs to do is like you need to do this to have peace with yourself and then go on. We have characters
That's the
from
premise of the movie.
yeah, you have characters like Michael Massee. You know, we saw him in the movie Seven when we talked about it, and he passed away a couple of years ago. And then we have the villain of the movie, which is portrayed magnificently by the great actor Michael Wincott, who plays Top Dollar. Like you see this guy, and you know he's bad, and you want to
He's
want to
intimidating.
yeah. So that's Michael Wincott right there, and then obviously we have the goons, and portrayed by the magnificent David Patrick Kelly from the movie The Warriors. Like it's just amazing. So like talking about the acting about this movie, you know, we have Brandon Lee, Ernie Hudson, Michael Wincott. Like, what do you guys think? Like those scenes where they all interact or they have their own scenes on their own. Is this the perfect chemistry of why this movie works?
I mean,
I
like,
think. Go for it.
it's all yours. I think we have a little delay in between, so I'll let you. You are our guest, so go.
Yeah, it's storming in Texas, so I think the rain is kind of like slowing my internet down. But all the characters, all the actors that portrayed these characters are excellent characters in their own, and they're all been in a lot of movies, a lot of great movies, and a lot of them have starred in a lot of movies as well, so they can also carry that starting role. For me, the on screen chemistry, like all the actors actually lived the characters. So when they were portraying, they were bringing to life these characters from a black and white page from a comic book. I think I think one of the reasons that this movie works so well, apart from Brandon Lee, is all the cast that's surrounding him. You know, Tony Todd, like you mentioned, David, Patrick Kelly, and the other dude that I just remember I saw him in Along Came a Spider, and he was a great villain in there for the duration that he was in there. So I think this cast is awesome for this movie, and it's a great cast to put around Brandon Lee.
Um,
What's your take, Russian?
I think to me the main part is that everybody who is the bad guy gets enough screen time to kind of enhance their ugliness, enhance their badness, and prove themselves that they're pieces of garbage and that they are trash and that they don't value
Yeah.
anybody's life except their own, that their philosophy of life is the right philosophy, and if you get in their way, they're just pretty much gonna step over you or do anything that they can to either silence you or like murder you, and they don't have any kind of value for human life, even their own. At the end, like you
Mhm.
see, they don't really care of dying. They just want to put up on a good show, and like even dying, they still don't change their core. Like usually in the movies, like when you have a villain, they usually maybe come over to the other side or something. At least one of them, but all of them, these small thugs, and all of them have the same mentality. Like I will not be bound to the good, and that's why they all die so dramatically and so wonderfully on a screen, and that's when
Mhm.
our protagonist kind of executes all of them one by one. So the way that the chemistry works, that every one of them got enough screen time to not and to be relevant and not enough to be overpowering and boring. Like the main guy gets his share, and sometimes you're like, oh, you're too much. But then they switch to somebody else, to like to his right hand or left hand, whatever you call. Like he has Mika or Micah, the girl who's kind
Hmm.
of like a witch slash, whatever the sorceress. And then
Yeah.
you got like the assassin, the dude who like I don't know his name, but the black guy with the gun. Um, I forgot Tony
Candyman,
Todd.
Tony Todd.
Yeah,
Portrayed by the great Tony Todd.
There we
You
go.
see
Yeah,
right there.
Ranch. Like, and each one of them, like they are pure evil in their own right way. Like, none of the characters have interloops. They not overlap. They all bad in their own crazy way. One has knives. One likes to set shit on fire. Another one likes guns. She uses sorcery. Like, it's overwhelming badness. Like, it's like Avengers, but in a bad sense of Avengers. So, and I think that's the reason why the characters worked, and that's why the actors who portray them, they got enough screen time, and that's thanks to the director, who's like, okay, maybe this is too much, so he had to cut some scenes. So maybe this is overacting, so he had to push them back, and every time that they go crazy on a scene on screen for certain scenes, it's like it's not overwhelming. It's like you see they're fucking crazy, but you don't start like questioning, like, oh, and hating them. You're like, I understand this guy, and I wish he dies. And boom, 2 minutes later he's dead. Like, and you're like, okay, great. So let's
Yeah.
keep on going. And and I think that's the beauty of it. It's almost like a game. This protagonist just goes like from boss to boss to boss to the final boss, and he just like executes all of them. So I think
Hey, what's up,
um,
Michelle? How long is the movie? The movie runs for an hour and 40 minutes, I believe. It's not a
Mhm.
very long movie. It's enough to deliver you the story to point A to point B,
yep.
but there's so much emotion involved with this movie whatsoever. The story itself, and and this is where we're gonna go next with the screenplay of this movie. So originally, like we would mention, this movie was created, the comic book created by Mr. James O'Barr. But I'm trying to pull up the writer real quick. So this movie was written by Mr. David J. Schow and John Shirley. Okay, so they adapted the comic book The Crow into a movie, and they had a horror background. They've done movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and other horror movies. And then John Shirley is an American writer, but he's done a lot of novels, and he's mostly known just for his work on The Crow. So we have pretty much unknown writers adapting a independent comic attached to a B movie star, because let's face it, Brandon Lee was a B movie star, and this movie
Mhm.
is portrayed and filmed like a B movie, like the Russian mentioned earlier. I've always wanted to watch it, but I didn't know if I was going to like it. You should definitely watch it, Michelle. It is
You
my
should give
favorite
it a
movie. I
chance
wouldn't,
for
I
sure.
wouldn't recommend it if it was bad. Even the
Besides
Russian
the
though, he's very
violence,
picky with his movies. He likes it too, so
You should watch it.
you should watch it.
besides the
I believe
violence,
it's on HBO Max. Yeah,
they
is it on HBO
actually
Max too?
removed
It's
it.
not.
No,
They removed it a couple of days ago.
gotcha. Well,
They
I'll lend it
yeah,
to
they
you,
removed
Michelle,
it.
if next time I see Franco. So the screenplay, okay. So we got a very independent comic book being adapted to a movie. Not everybody has ever heard about this comic book. No one has ever heard of The Crow. So you're living in 1993, 1994, and you see a poster for a movie called The Crow. You don't know nothing about it. It doesn't really connect with you. Like you're like, let's just put ourselves right now. If all of us were living in 1993, I mean, we all lived in that era, but we were at different ages. But like, if we were at this age in 1993 slash 1994, and you come across a movie theater with the poster that just says Brandon Lee, Believe in Angels, The Crow, what would have been your first take, Pablo? What would have been your first take?
I would have watched it. I would have watched it because I'm kind of like this. I was in this goth phase for a while, and I'm kind of like dark in that sense as well.
1994 goth phase
So I
did
would
not
have
exist.
definitely watched it. Just I know. I mean, it did. They did have like goth bands and stuff like that, and actually, the Crow character, Eric Draven, after he turns into the Crow, He was modeled after some punk. Yeah, my mom loves
He
that
was.
movie. She
He
put it
was
on TV all
modeled
the time.
after Iggy
He
Pop
was modeled after
among
some punk,
yeah.
among others. Yeah, the
Uh,
makeup, the whole
yeah.
9 yards came from that. So that's why the soundtrack is not really surprising because that's like what the author likes. That's kind of like the vibe of the whole thing.
How about you, Russian? What 1993? Your age right now. You come across the poster of The Crow. You don't know anything about what the hell is this. Would you have been interested in seeing this?
I would be still alive in 1993 in my age in the Soviet Union. Yeah, that would be first. So that would be super surprising. Second of though, I would probably not gonna be watching movies. I think, and I would definitely skip this one. I mean, it's a different generation.
Thank you, Ramses.
Um, so, but I can tell you when I was 13, going on 14, and then this movie came into the rental boxes, like you imagine Red Box, but instead it was
Blockbuster, Cinema Club, stuff like that. Yeah.
Blockbuster, and then you have like all these videotapes which are
Yeah.
pirated from America, which are re-recorded 27 times, and you have the some guy who sounds like this. Hey guys, we're gonna watch the movie. So that's how the guy who translated it. That's how he. That's how he sounded, which was horrible. And one guy translated. He dubbed every single movie in the 90s, and I'm not joking.
Hmm.
Like, every single movie which was translated was one Russian guy who translated in his basement. So anyway, I get this movie because somebody says, "Hey, this is new. We just got it," and I just watched everything that I can get my hands on, and we plug it in, and there's like five of us because one guy has a VCR and none of us else has it, so we watched it all together, and every single guy was mind blown. Like we were obsessed with this movie in 1994. Like the next day we came out and we are like playing outside, and for some reason somebody put like I mean, they chalked up the entire building like around my house, and so it was still dry, but it was enough for you to like scratch your hand and have a chalk on top of your hand. So we just scratched that building and painted our faces. And some of the girls from the neighborhood stole the lipstick from their moms, and they came out there, and I was like painting myself as a crow. I did not have a leather jacket or anything like that, and we had like prop guns running around trying to like be this thing. So it influenced us at the young age. Like you were 14, but you're playing this character. So just in the sense that not too many movies make you do stuff like this. Not too many, like Star Wars fans, they became Luke overnight, or Marvel fans, they
Yeah.
decided to be a
Hmm.
Captain America for Halloween. It wasn't Halloween. We didn't celebrate Halloween, but it was that inner fucking feeling like I want to be the Crow. I wanted to be uh, I wanted to be the part of this mythological world. So it influenced me like on a big scale in the beginning, but even now, like I rewatched it and I'm like, this is gold. This movie is pure gold.
Yeah.
There's not a scene where I would take it out. There's not a scene that I would add stuff. It just you watch it for what it is, and how different it is from nowadays blockbusters. How many
Yeah.
different takes they did, how many different approaches they took to try to make something unique, and the way that movie works is that you can see so many followings. I mean, people starting dressing up like goth culture, as we mentioned before. Like I don't think that existed as to the level as it took off after The Crow became the cult phenomenon.
Yeah.
And you can see the resemblance between Keith Ledger's Joker and some of the things that he borrowed from The Crow, from Brandon Lee character. Like it's undeniable
Yeah.
how there's a certain scenes you can see the resemblance, like striking resemblance. So I'm sure he studied that.
There is.
And besides that, like the even the scene when he walks in and sits at the meeting, right? When he goes
Yeah.
to the bad guys, it's the same fucking scene
Oh,
that
yeah.
Nolan did in Dark Knight. It's you look at it, it's
Mhm.
almost identical.
Yeah.
So like the influence that this movie did on people who love movies, on people who love the culture, on people who love superhero slash comic book movies, it's undeniable. Like that's why it became movies do not become cult followings if there's something in them which draws attention to the masses. It's not just two people who are sitting in the basement and like, oh, remember the Crow. No, it's millions and millions of people who enjoy this movie till this day. And it's not because of the
Mhm.
tragedy. It's not because of the curse which surrounds this movie. It's because of what it became, because of the story, it's because of the plot, it's because of the acting and the directing, and all of those little things intervene, combined together. That's what Crow is. That's why it's your favorite movie. Absolutely.
You hit it. You hit it. I mean, that's pretty much why it is my favorite movie. Like, look, I probably look. I feel like I watched this movie too late the first time. It was 2005, and I was in high school, and it was just about something about the story that I connected with, and I just felt like this was a very powerful character. And I watched this movie, and it's like I don't know what's it about, but there was something that drew me to it. And then upon like going into research and reading about more about the movie, I find out about the creator of the comic book itself, like what he went through, how he put pretty much what his suffering like, with this character, and it just delivers, like you mentioned, like the story delivers such a powerful message that true love never dies. Like you'll do anything for that true love. You'll do everything. Like it took this man to come back to life to take vengeance and be at peace with the love of his life.
But like, if you think about it, let's just fantasize.
Mm-hmm.
Any man that this is my my personal belief that any man who would be put in that situation, if your loved one, your fiance, who you just wanted to spend the rest of your life,
Yeah.
was taken away in that brutal way, and they killed you, they throw you out of the fucking building, and a year later you wake up and you find out that you're invincible. Like every one of us would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like it's so relatable that character is like, you put me in that position, I'm doing the same thing.
Exactly.
Tell me at the one person on this planet who would be in his shoes as a character, obviously. You would do absolutely the same thing. That's why this story works like on a
Yeah.
human level, because it's like I understand his
And
motivation, I understand what he's doing, and he ain't wrong. Like I would fucking kill them all too. Like if I would have immunity for one night, and then 25 years later we have Deadpool, who pretty much is the fucking Crow, but just a little bit funnier.
Funnier. Yeah.
And but that's the same mentality. Like he's invincible, he cannot die, although he cannot die forever. In this situation he cannot die. And then the Deadpool 2, they play the fucking same story. They just took the script from Deadpool. I mean, Deadpool 2 is like the Crow, just in a little bit different reverse. But anyway,
It's
diverting, but yes.
it's a movie that definitely was released ahead of its time. Like, imagine the
Sure.
Crow. Let me rephrase this. Imagine this
tried.
exact film being released in this era. As an R-rated comic book movie, like in the style
Who
of
fucking made $1 billion.
The Watchmen, V
Billion
for
dollar.
Vendetta, right?
for sure.
Like,
For
and
sure.
the reason I say let's rephrase this, because I mean, this movie, this franchise, had three sequels. We had The Crow City of Angel that acted out as a direct sequel to this 1994 version. Didn't pan out well.
Yeah.
Then you had two straight-to-video movies with Crow Salvation and Wicked Prayer, which were both horrible movies. And then up to last year, there was a reboot being planned with director Corin Hardy attached to direct, and actor Jason Momoa in the role of Eric Draven, which it opened up a lot of mixed reviews, mixed critics about like, why are we rebooting a film of that has such a strong cult following. Like some movies are not meant to be remade, and I believe this is one of them.
Yep, I completely agree with you.
Okay, like The Crow should not be
would've
ever
watched it.
rebooted or remade, and if you're going to do something with it, just do something completely original. Don't touch what Brandon Lee left
But you
this
really
earth.
can't listen. It's a guy who comes to life for one night and he revenges his dead.
I mean, any character can be that. Yeah,
That story it's over.
yeah.
And yes, I
Basically,
completely agree
the
with
three movies
Ramses
are the
that
same.
this is super romantic, but it's also super dark and twisted and
That's a great way to put it. Like The Crow is a gothic romance story.
and I agree
That's-
with you.
that's
completely.
it.
That was not the point I was trying to make.
what
I
I
was trying to make that they took
Mm-hmm.
what worked for the Crow, like he's immortal for one day,
No,
and
yeah.
they made it like, hey, Deadpool immortal for fucking ever. And the romantic part, they just, hey, he also had a girlfriend, and then the girlfriend dies. So
It's a gothic romance story. That's exactly what it is. We nailed it.
dude, it's funny how a lot of people coming out and saying it's like it's their favorite.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for joining our podcast. And yeah, good to know that The Crow is your favorite movie ever. Good to know.
And like I'm honestly surprised how
It's
many.
ours too. Yeah.
I thought like it's a guy movie, but I'm surprised how many like girls like really like that type of story, because it's pretty dark to me. Like I thought like Notebook would be somebody who's like, hey, let me watch Notebook, and no, somebody coming out like The Crow. Like
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see.
What's your favorite romantic movie?
The Crow? Oh
The
yeah.
Crow.
What happens to the girl? Well, she dies.
Yeah. She dies.
She gets
Right at the beginning of the movie,
gets
both the
killed.
guy and the girl die.
fucking romantic. Like this is what I want from my blood. All right, but yeah. That being said, let's move on. Like we kind of like pushing it close.
Yeah. So quickly, what is Paul? I'm gonna go with you. What is your favorite moment of the film? Like, what's the one scene that you're like, God, this is why I love this movie?
Wow.
That's
This
a tough
movie
one.
has like so many great scenes and so many one-liners. When victims aren't we all? It can't rain all the time, like the shirt that you're wearing. But my favorite scene, actually, you had a picture of it, and it's with I think her name was Lila. The
Laurence
character.
Mason.
He's,
Which one?
with Fun Boy.
Okay.
It's Michael Massee, the one
Okay.
with the girl.
Okay, I see it. Yeah, this
That
one.
scene where they're doing heroin. They're doing heroin,
Yep.
and the Crow comes in, obviously,
Yep.
to exact this vengeance on Funboy,
Can't
Michael
rain all the
Massey's
time.
character. But he not only exacts his vengeance on him, but he kind of redeems the mother. And one of my favorite lines in that whole scene is, "Mother is the name of God in the eyes and mouth and ears for all the children." And for me, that was like so strong of a scene, because he's not only killing, but he's only also redeeming somebody. That turns out at the end that she's a mother again. So I love that scene. That's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
Dude, the part of when he like touches her hand and the heroin comes out of her veins. Oh my god! The first time I watched
what I'm
this, I was
saying.
like, I'm never fucking doing heroin. Like, and I was 14. I didn't even know what the fucking heroin is. And thank God, till this day, I was like, so I mean, there's a message. Of course, afterwards I seen Requiem for a Dream, so that like definitely put the fucking stop.
Yeah, that changes everything about
That
drug
just
addiction.
scares me, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
stick to the fucking
Everything.
Stick to the beat.
Yeah.
I mean, what? So are we gonna go best scene, least favorite scene, or are we gonna go just best scene?
I mean, while we're at it, what's your least favorite scene, Pablo? What scene maybe makes you believe like maybe this shouldn't have been there? If there's any, you don't have to have one, but if there's one.
There's a couple of scenes that I think they're kind of like pointless to a point. For example, this guy, the one that was in the long came Spider.
Michael
what was his
Wincott?
name?
You're talking about Michael Wincott.
Wincott. He
Yeah.
and yeah, Michael Wincott and Ling, I think it's her name.
Ling. Yeah, we see her that photo right there. Yeah.
Ling. Mhm. Yep. So there's some scenes that kind of try to show like they're kind of like into mysticism and kind of like witchcraft and all that with like when they have the threesome and they kill the girl and remove the eye and whatever because the eyes are the
Yeah,
windows
I
to the
know.
soul.
Yeah, I know what scene you're talking
And
about.
it's and then and then the crow comes and takes one of her eyes out, which I thought was like awesome full circle
An eye
for
for
that
an eye.
crappy scene. But yeah, that's mhm.
All right, all right. How
I
about
think
you,
that's
Russian?
I mean, my favorite scene obviously is the end scene, like the when he
When
gives
he shares his memories,
when he gives him the
the
pain.
pain.
I think it was
oh the pain
obviously
40
I believe
hours.
yeah it just the creativity level of how to execute the villain is exceptional. I mean, I'm speechless. I rarely speechless about the scenes, but that scene just always kind of like was the epicenter. Like it was the
Yeah.
Everest of how you can cleverly like. There's no they've been shooting and punching and sword fighting through the entire movie, and at the end, all it took for him to be like, "Hey, listen, I have one last gift for you,
Hmm.
and it's all the pain that you caused for her," and that just makes everything to be like
Yeah,
perfection.
it's a great ending. It's just a great ending. I mean,
Um,
you have a least favorite scene?
honestly, like
Yeah, he gets the happy ending.
I mean, I did not. There are few fighting scenes where seem outdated by today's standards. Some of the unnecessary like punching and throwing and kicking but it's 1994, so I
Yeah,
can't like I can be bitching about them nowadays, but like at that time, like I
I
think
get it.
I think I'm gonna leave this one without any of the Russians' wrath or this
It's
one gets a
fair.
pass. It's like you never talk bad about dead people, so and we're just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of my favorite
Yeah, this
scenes.
movie's a classic.
It's whenever Eric Draven walks into the pawn shop because he's looking for the rings, his fiance's ring, because they got pawned. And I think this is I'm a big Edgar Allan Poe guy. I've loved Edgar Allan Poe short stories and his poems, and The Raven is one of my top poems, right? And when he walks into that pawn shop and starts quoting The Raven, I just felt it was perfect with the character itself. And I just love that scene. That's the one scene that every time I watch, I'm like, this is why I love this movie. I really don't have a least favorite scene. I mean, maybe those same scenes that Ling and Michael Wincott share that I feel like maybe don't have really a relevance in the story in a sense, but in a way it kind of does because she's the one that helps him explain to Top Dollar is like, hey, this is who he is, and like she believe in this supernatural, and she makes him understand like he's an supernatural being, like you can't kill what's already dead, basically, right? But yeah, I don't really have like a least favorite or worst moment. I feel like this movie, for what it is, it's just overall perfection, and it's one of those movies that you can just sit back and enjoy, and like you can enjoy as a romantic story like we just mentioned, you can enjoy as a comic book movie, you can just enjoy it as a
Action
dark
film.
vigilante vengeance movie, right? Like Death Witch type movie, right?
Hmm.
It's just overall, and like I want to share a couple of like, I want to show people that like this is literally my favorite movie. Like I had the opportunity to meet Mr. James O'Barr. I need to show off. So I had the opportunity to show off to see Mr. James O'Barr at New York Comic Con 2014. Though my lovely wife got me tickets that year as a birthday gift, so I had the opportunity to meet Mr. James O'Barr. As you can see right there, that's me with less hair and probably like a couple of pounds on me.
That was what the fuck happened there?
Yeah, I know, right? It's called
Cheeseburger Dad?
yeah. So James O'Barr, no, I ended up buying some commissioned
University.
artwork from him. But one of my most treasured thing is that I brought the Blu-ray of the movie to Comic Con, and I'm gonna put it right there on the camera. So he signed it for me, and he drew a nice halo, a gold
Ooh,
halo on top of Brandon Lee's character. He did this on his own. I didn't ask him to do it. I just came like, "Hey man, can
that
you
is
sign my
awesome.
movie?" He did, and he drew that halo. And the reason he did that, he has said in multiple interviews
That is awesome.
that when Brandon Lee was casted as Eric Draven, he knew from that point on that was the perfect Eric Draven from the moment he got that first call. Like like even through pre-production, like he saw a lot of actors. Like we mentioned in our movie by trivia, like Christian Slater, River Phoenix were among actors that got offered the role and they turned it down. But when the moment that Brandon Lee accepted, James O'Barr said, "This is my Eric Draven," and he just
Yep.
drew that halo. And I saw that moment, I was like, wow. Like he to this day, he like I felt like he to this day he knew that that's the masterpiece. That's the work he needed to be envisioned. If its movie needed to be adapted, that's right there, and that's why you can fucking remake or reboot The Crow. Period. Dot. Hollywood, get your dirty paws out of this movie. Don't touch it. Leave it as it is.
You can remaster it in 4K.
Yeah, even
I mean,
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to be like a 30th anniversary or 25th anniversary edition because I'm buying that in 4K. I need that movie remastered in 4K. Absolutely.
but I agree with you completely. Like, do not,
this
do
movie's
not even.
a this movie's a must-have in your collection.
Definitely. Definitely. So any final thoughts? So we can wrap up. We're coming down to our hour mark. Any final thoughts?
Yes.
Pablo, what are your final thoughts about this movie? What do you want to tell the audience about this movie?
I think, like we've mentioned during this episode, this movie is a great movie. It's a great story. Yes, there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of killing. There's a lot of bloodshed. But in the end, it's a story about love. How love transcends death, and why, as a person, you are able or uh, go through in order to exact your vengeance. And for me, from the pages of the comic book or the graphic novel, some people refer to it, to here, the essence of the story, it's don't let anybody tell you anything. Watch it by yourself. I guarantee your collection as soon as you're done.
How about you, Russian? Any final thoughts for the audience about this movie?
Um, I mean, you probably, if you're still with us, you already seen it. Just enjoy it, rewatch it. There's not much we can really tell you about this movie if you're still with us, because it's a truly a masterpiece. It's a truly from the cinema perspective is it's a story which was written by the creator of the comic. It was taken by the director. We got unknown director, unknown actor, and every for the main role, and everybody else who participated in that understood what they're creating. So the thing about this movie is that everybody who were making it, they understood the purpose, they understood the idea, and they wanted to share it with the world. And as tragic everything happened to
Yep.
be, they accomplished that. And then when they shared, nobody expected the result. The parenthood company dropped the project. The people who picked it up and scrambled it to make it pass through the obstacles,
To
which
finish
is
it.
ironic that to make this movie so much sacrifices were made, and the movie is about sacrificing pretty much everything to kind of put put the put the right thing, in the end, like
Hmm.
to accomplish what's supposed to be done. Make the good prevail, like not let evil win. And that's the simple story. It's a story about the film itself, and it's a story about Eric and his, I wouldn't say revenge. He just went and did the right thing. Every one of us would do it in the same situation. But the cult following that this movie created is that everybody
For
can
sure.
relate to the characters. Everybody can relate to this story, the compassion that the humans feel, and even though somebody is being taken away from you violently, you're still gonna love them no matter what. Like he's still, and that's why like people say it's a romantic movie. You're right. Like he still loves the memory of her. He still wants to be with her, even though after it's all said and done. But while they're still separated, and while he's still here, he's gonna make the things right. And it's a simple, like sometimes the simplest things are the best things. And this is a very simple story, very simple movie, but it created the cult following, and we're talking about it 27 years later. So obviously, like my take is,
I
it's
agree.
fantastic. It's superb.
Perfect. I mean, my final thoughts. We already mentioned most of it. Like, check the movie out. A movie released way ahead of its time. It's amazing. It's a very precise story, but it has so much to it. And Brandon Lee left a legacy with this movie. Like, this is the movie that he will always be remembered for. Like, and you just need to give it a watch. If you've never come across this movie and this is the first time hearing about it, like, give it a shot. Like, I can guarantee you'll enjoy it, and it will be a movie that you're going to end up watching at least multiple times throughout the next couple of years. So definitely give it a shot. Unfortunately, the movie got removed from HBO Max a couple of weeks ago, but you can still rent it or buy it on any digital platform. It's definitely worth the rent or the buy, I can guarantee you. So check it out. So, with all this has been this has been it for this week's episode of MovieByte with talking about The Crow. Next week's episode, we are going to tackle the category of guilty pleasure, and we're going to be talking about a movie that the Russian picked. And what movie is that?
So we're gonna be talking about the Legends of the Fall, and if you like romantic movies, I mean, stick around. Next week we're gonna be talking about probably this one of the. Oh, this is pretty. This was pretty sad romance. That one is also very sad.
Legends of the Fall. It's gonna hit you.
Legends of the Fall is it's gonna bring it home. It's the drama of the 1990s. We're sticking to the 90s. Like we're going. We
got to show the people the 90s had some really good stuff.
Some really good stuff. And Legends of the Fall, starring Brad Pitt, Anthony Hopkins,
Aidan Quinn, I think, is also.
We have a fantastic cast, and we're gonna dive in what it makes it a guilty pleasure for me, and I'll explain it to you, and I'll break it down. But
all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, MovieByte Podcast. Thank you for all your support. Like us on Facebook, Instagram. We are also on Twitch. Subscribe there. We are here every Monday, 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m. Just keep that bell there so you can get the notification. We'll be here next week. Also, check out our last week's episode, Solaris, and our season 2 premiere, Speed, which are already up in all of our YouTube and Facebook. Also, if you are on the go and can't be watching videos while you're on the go or stuck in traffic, look us up in your favorite podcast station. You can just listen to us and be part of the fun. So, again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Pablo, thank you for joining in on this week's episode of The Crow. I appreciate everything you do for us, and we hope to see you later on in another movie. And that's it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be seeing you next week.
See you guys.
All right.